Hi. Kind of new to this, so bear with me here, but I'm going to essentially take you through the process of setting up a storage node on Unraid using the Docker container and whatnot. I was looking at the forums and I was having some trouble as well, so I thought I'd put this quick video together really quick and just show you how I got it to work. So to get started, I'll show you the one I have running already. This here is a storage node v3. If we look at the information here, you can see it's just named v3, and here's the actual Storj Labs storage node :beta. The :beta currently is important. If you look at the dates, you'll need to look at the dates to see when the latest, or when they start revving the latest as a stable version. Then I have this is my first node that's already running. I'm going to be setting up a second one today. So this one is the default 67 port. The next one will be the 68 port. Okay, and then I'll need to change this 68 port here for the public DNS, and I believe, and I have to check this out still, but I believe I'm going to turn this to 68, and then I'm going to basically translate it down to 67. So inside the container it stays the same, but coming to the container from public it should be 2968, and I already have all my port forwarding set up. Alright, this node has 24 terabytes, and the dashboard's on 14.002. So all that's pretty standard if you're familiar with it. Sometimes there are other containers and they'll have like addresses or where you're mounting certain directories and whatnot. They don't work. That uses the -v for the Docker map, and what you need is the -mount as it says right here. So you really need to follow these instructions. Now, the location of where these mounts gets put, whether it's nested storage node inside of identity or not, is kind of the challenge where everybody gets stuck. So we'll be paying close attention to that today, and I'll show you how I get it to work. The most important thing you can do here is required. It is converting this to advanced view, and then you'll be able to see all of your actual your extra parameters. And I'll take this and I'll put it out into a notepad so you can see it in a moment. When we go through the new one, but this is the requirement, and I'll show you all about that in just a moment. Okay, so now that this is up and running, I have my storage dashboard here, and if I refresh it, I started a couple days ago, and it's been running, going through the vetting process still. So anyway, there's that. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a new Docker container. I already have my identities created, and this is the steps that we're going to kind of follow here. We're going to set up the share. So I have I'm going to have two nodes running, so I'm going to have a little bit different work going on here. But I'll set up the share. We'll configure all the disk allocations, because you don't necessarily want Storj to just have access to all of your disks. I actually separated my disks that I'm going to have dedicated to storage. That way I have several disks and I have an entire structure set up. I'm going to donate 36 terabytes total. But they don't really want a single node, it seems like, to be greater than 24 terabytes. So I stopped that one at the first one at 24, and I'm going to give 18 to this next one, or rather, rather 12 terabytes to the next one. So with that said, I'll show you a little bit about that. I've already created the identities. This is fairly straightforward. You just need to go to the storage main page here, follow this tutorial on creating your identity. And it's pretty straightforward whether you're using PowerShell or Linux. I didn't really have any problems creating the actual identity. Where it gets a little tricky is doing the authorizing the identity so that you get all the correct certs. But we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so what's next? I already set up my dynamic DNS to make sure if your public IP address changes that you continue to have the correct mapping between your public IP address and your server. And then you need to set up the port forwarding. The first one I set up was 967, and this one is going to be 968 public, and I'm going to hope that that's going to work. We're probably going to stumble through that a little bit, but we'll see. Okay, so if you need to do port forwarding, I use pfSense. It's really easy. There's NATing involved and stuff. There's a million different routers that's beyond the scope of the video. I'm expecting that you already know how to do port forwarding, but you need to get your traffic to here. And one great way to do that is to set up a little HTTP web server or something, or whatever, and just get some kind of page from your cell phone on LTE to make sure that you can get through your public IP. or through your DDNS, dynamic DNS, through that port, and it comes to that HTTP homepage that you just, a little Apache server or something. All right. So I don't know what number 6 is. We're going to find out. So let's first out the share. I need to go to my shares, and I'm going to create a new one. This is going to be Storj. So I already have Storj A. I'm going to create Storj B, and this is going to be my Storj B container. And I like to use the fill up. I like it to go in order. I don't want to, it to spin. I like to just with storage just move forward in the direction of the disk fill up. I don't want it to do high water. Minimum preface. I'm going to put 100 gigabytes here. I'm going to keep 100 gig on the top of the spindles. That's all fine. Now here's important, right? So which disk are you going to include? Now if we pop over here really quick, I've already done a mapping of which disk numbers I have, how much space I want, and which ones I'm going to dedicate. So I'm going to just copy those. I'm going to copy those from another share, the Storj A share, and just reuse those. So I'm going to read those settings, and you can see it automatically populated the disks, which ones are included, excluded, etc. And I am going to use the cache. I didn't at first, but after a little bit more thought and chat on the forum, it's probably best to use the cache. Now, I have about a terabyte or 2 of NVMe for cache, and after your node is vetted, I haven't got that far yet, but once your node is vetted, you may be ingressing too fast, or if you get more than let's say you have 600 gigabytes and you get that much in a day, I don't really know if that's something that's going to happen or not, but if it did, I might change the way that this works, and that's another reason I'm selecting the fill-up method, is I don't want it to be like splitting all over the disks. I want it to go kind of in synchronous order. Alright, so I don't think this is going to be a problem. I think that's the right way to do it. It also should save some pressure on your disks if you have the mover set up to run periodically like you should. I'm going to add this share. Okay, so now I've got the share. I'm not going to export it right now. I've already created my identities, as I said. So let's see, no export. And what I'm going to do, what I'm going to go ahead and do is move my identities. I have them stored in a location here. I created them on a different, more powerful computer, and then moved them to a temporary storage here. If you look in this directory, you'll notice I have the 4 files. There should be 6 when you're done, but the last 2 are going to come from actually authorizing. Those are going to be the actual authorized keys that are signed and authorized cert. So we're not there yet, but we will be there before too long. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror what I've already done on Storj A, and that's going to be to put these created identity folder inside of the Storj B container, and I'm going to create identity/storage node and have these put in there. So mkdir-p, I want it to be identity/storage node. Okay, and now I'm going to copy these over, and you don't really need all of these, I don't think, at the end of the day, because some of them are backups, but this is a secure location for me, so I'm going to go ahead and just copy them all. And now if we switch over to here, we should see it. Okay, so now we've got our path. So this is going to be the location of our identity storage. I'm just going to take some notes here. Okay, so now we've got that, and now what I want to do is I want to create a data directory underneath it, underneath Storj B, so that I can, I don't want my identity and my actual storage data getting mixed up. So I'm going to create another directory called data, and now I've got that. So that'll be the root of my actual storage location. All right. So we've got those set up. Now what we need to do, we've configured our share, we've got our identity, we've got our disk locations. Now that we've got our no IP set up, or our dynamic DNS rather, and we've got our port forwarding set up. So now it's time to actually set up the container. So let's see here. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to my Docker, and I'm just going to add containers. So initially, whenever you do this, you're going to go to apps, and you can actually, let me just show you. You can go to apps and search for a, Storj, and here you can actually grab this one, I believe, Storj Node v3 beta. This is the one that I'm using, and it seems to be the one that works right now. So like I said, keep an eye on the movement here, and when it goes to latest, when you can switch that flag, etc. But this one's the one that's working for me right now. So you would just download that. But since I already have it and I already have a template set up, all I'm going to do is go to my Docker, say add container, and I'm going to select the template for that one. Okay, now this has got the same name, so obviously I don't want that. So I'm going to say storage v3-b, and this is going to wind up being my secondary container. Okay, so I'm going to try to leave this internal port to 28697, and obviously you put your wallet address here, which is redacted for you, and your email here, which is also redacted. Here it's redacted now, but let me go ahead and blur that. So I'm just going to set this to 28698 with my dynamic DNS in front. So like .ddns.net : and then your port number. So I'll show you that in the other side because it's blurred out for now. I don't want everyone knowing my public IP. And then we have, I'm going to allocate 12 terabytes of storage, and I can't let this conflict because this is my internal dashboard port, so can't let that conflict. So I'm going to set that to 1400. Okay, so with that set up, I'm just going to go into advanced view, and I'm going to grab this little information here, and here is the most important part and where everybody's getting flipped up. So the first thing to note is that on the first run, so this is super important. On the first run, you need to have setup equals, or you need to actually have another parameter here, and it needs to be setup equals true. Inside the Docker entry point, it's like if this parameter, if the environment variable setup is true, it's going to go ahead and create the directories that you need to run it. So then it will do that and then stop the container. Then you remove it and start it back up, and it should start up fine. That's the theory. Okay, so now we've got to change some of these. So we're going to have to mount identity to storage node to get it to run, and that's going to cause other problems in a second. But anyhow, I believe the setup ran. It might not have, so I'm actually going to go ahead and keep the setup to make sure that everything got created where it was supposed to. And actually we can double check by going into here and looking in data, and see there's no directories created, so it didn't actually run the setup. So we're going to keep the setup config for the first run. Okay. Now, let's see, did we get directories in here? We got them. So now we have our config YAML and our storage, which means that the first run actually happened. Now let's see if we actually got logs for that. Nah, so there's no logs to show you that here. You just have to double check your share and see if it's actually got stuff. So now we can go back and edit and remove this, hit apply. And now it started. So now we've got it running 68 is pointing to 67, and 4003 is pointing to 4002. Now, it's not going to work yet. I guarantee you there's going to be a cert problem. Yep. So here's the cert problems, because it's not authorized, right? So with these cert problems, there's a lot of ways to fix it. But the best way, because of every which way you go, there's going to be another complication. So if you try to do it if you try to authorize it outside of the actual container, then it's going to be missing like the Bolt DB requirements. And doing it inside has its own challenges. So I'm not telling you which way to do it. I'm just telling you this is the way. Actually, I'm not telling you the best way to do it. I'm telling you the way that I did it. So what I'm going to do is get into the is come into here and like just the root drive of my Unraid server, and here we have I'm going to actually just log into the Docker node. So the way that you log into Docker containers, docker exec it, the container name, and then this one's going to be whatever command you want to do. So we're going to do sh on this one. So now I'm in here, and in here you see that we have our config directory, our identity directory. We have all of these things here to help us. And what I did was I actually went ahead and pulled, now going back over to outside the container. So inside the container, outside the container. Outside the container, I went ahead and used the curl command that you find in the documentation to pull and unzip the identity binary. That's right here. So I'll just do it again so that you can see it. So I'll just remove the identity. Oops. And now I need to be inside the storage node actually, because if you remember, that's what we mounted. Okay, so there's my 4. We're back to where we were earlier with our 4 out of 6 files needed. And what I'm going to do is just run this curl command. And here, and I'm doing it outside the container because the container doesn't have curl and some other things, and like unzip. It's not all pre-installed, so it's a mess to try. It's just more work to install that there. So now I'm just going to unzip this identity utility, and now I can remove the zip I downloaded. So now I've got my 4 files plus the identity binary. Okay, so from the identity binary, what I can do is go back into my Docker container. So let me show you. So this is my Docker container here. See, I'm inside an app. If I go to identity, remember that's mounted to identity/storage node on the host. So here you can see there's the same 5 files of our identity files and 1 identity utility. One thing to note about the identity utility is that you can actually go to identity, and what we're doing, if you're following we already have our identity created. Now we just need to authorize it. That's the reason that all the certs are failing. If you look closer at the errors, you'll see that the certs are failing because that server's not authorized to get into the whitelist of the TLS keys, which is more than we need to talk about now. So if I go to identity authorize and I look at the help functions, there are a lot of help functions. There's a lot of extra flags we can pass. So we need to say identity authorize storage node, give it our auth token, and then pass any of these flags. Now the one I need to use is I want to tell it the identity directory so it doesn't go to the default location. But when we do this, what you're going to notice is it's going to be actually looking for the 4 files that we've already created or that we already have from our identity. So we're looking for those in a nested directory called storage node. But as we've talked about before, is you can't start the container with that as your actual bind location. So we're going to have to do some little hacking here a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, 2 things we need to do. The first is we need to create just a temporary location. I've tried to change this in the parameters. It's just kind of more confusing. Most of us all know how to just make directories and copy stuff. So the easiest way from inside the application, inside the container, is going to be just to create this local share location for the revocations database. You need to put that in this location. It's the default location for the revocations DB. And you're going to need to copy the one that was created when you ran the -e setup. When you copy that over there and then run this, it'll work. So what did I do? If we look over here, I'm in app config. These are all the files that were created whenever it first ran. I didn't do anything. I create a directory, this one, and I copied this revocations database to that location. So if we come over here, you're going to see now there's a revocations database. Okay. Okay, so back to app config. Now if we go to identity, now you'll notice a little thing here, storage node. Now, if you think about it, the parent directory is actually /app/identity/storage node, but we've mounted that to the parent directory identity, app identity. So what it's going to do is it's actually going to try to read from the nested storage node. It's going to read these files from there. And so what I did was I made a copy and stuck them in a nested directory called storage node. And there they are again, right? Just the four files. So I made that little copy because, and now it's really dumb, right? So if you look at our directory, we're actually in identity storage node, and in here I have those 4 files, and from the parent directory I have those 4 files plus the storage node plus our identity binary. All right. So now from here, the identity. What we're going to do is from within the app, right? Within the container, we're going to run this authorized storage node, and then we're going to pass it this identity directory, and we should get our 5th and 6th files, which are actual signed keys. Alright, I'll be back after I do that because I don't want to share my key. Okay, after doing that, what you're going to have is in your app identity directory, those initial, you still have those 4 files, your storage node subdirectory that we created in the identity binary. If you look inside storage node after it says authorization successful, you'll see you'll have 2 additional files here. These are the 2 that you need. Now you have all 6. So what I did was I just went back up a level, and now I'm going to remove, I copied them instead of moved them earlier, so I got to remove everything /star.key just to clear out this directory. And now I just have identity storage node, and now I'm just going to move everything from storage, the nested storage node directory to here, and I should have my 6 freaking files. And now I can delete the storage node directory. And now I have my 6 files. I'm done with the identity, so I can also delete that. And here we are. I have my 6 files, and if we go over to here, what we're going to hopefully see is that this is actually going to run. Probably going to need to restart it one more time. That's going to kick me out of my app here. Yep. And now let's look. And so far, disk space is less than requested. Okay, so now I've got a whole other set of problems, which is great because now everything's working. I just need to fix my disk situation. It did start on 697. If we look and we go to the web UI here, it should take me to 14.003, which it does. It says I'm online, but it also is saying that I'm having a problem with my storage space size allocation. Let's see. What we can do is just pop in real quick, and if you do a df-h, let's see, storage def config available. Yep, that's not good. So app config does not have enough space at all, so obviously it's not mounted correctly. I'll be right back once I get that fixed. Alright, so now it's working. You can see now I've got the app config, you know, plenty of terabytes here now. I only assigned 12. I've got like 22 total with 5 used, whatever. And that's showing up with that much used because I just haven't rearranged all my data yet. I'm in the process of moving data around to free up those disks that I assigned specifically to that share. Now, why did that happen? That actually happened because I double-checked this. This was all correct. The issue was that I was using the cache drive. So I had to come into my share to get it to start and go to my share, go to here, and turn off the cache disk. My assumption is that that is only for the first time because I just restarted the server not long ago and I haven't had that problem at all on my primary, or on the one that was already set up. And this one here is working just fine. It's online, it's receiving data. So I'm not sure if that's just a first satellite check or something, but my guess is I can go back now to storage B and actually change it back to use cache disk. Yes, apply, and everything should keep working. So another little finagling requirement to get that running. Don't start it initially with the cache drive, and everything is running now. We go to, that's my other one. This is the new one. So it's been up for 2 minutes and we're receiving data. So there you go. It's a real mess. I'm sorry for how long this video is, but I'm glad it's working. And as you can see now, I have 2 running. And if you are someone that wants to set up 2, you know, this is a pretty good explanation on how to do that. So best of luck to you. I know this is a bit of a mess, and I suspect the container will get a little bit better as we move forward to make this startup a little easier. Good luck.